Hey, changemakers. Welcome back to the best version of myself, where we bring on changemakers who are doing exactly that, living their best lives day after day and continue to hone into the best version of themselves. And today on the best version of myself, we have a guest named Debi Butler, and I'm so excited for you to meet her and learn all about brain health. So to introduce Debi, she has been passionate about ending the stigma of mental illness for many years. Her interest in ending the stigma grew out of her work in advocating for her brother Steve, who in 1985 was diagnosed with schizophrenia, with the goal of improving understanding and awareness of brain health issues. Debi earned her MA in psychology from Loras College after returning to Augustana College to earn her second BA in psychology. Wow, Debi. She works with governmental officials in the state of Iowa to improve the awareness of brain health issues, including the importance of mindfulness practices for children. See why we have her on the podcast? Debi has been active in brain health community by previously sitting on the board of Hillcrest Family Services and is an active member of the Dubuque Community Brain Health Task Force. She also sat on the board of NAMI Dubuque in 2014 and 2015 and was actively involved in both a volunteer and advocate for victims of domestic violence through Family Resources from 2002 to 2012 in the Quad Cities. In 2015, Debi initiated Starry Nights with a like-minded group of women to create an awareness event to end the stigma of mental health and mental illness, featuring Patrick Kennedy and his story, as well as a curated art exhibit for those dealing with brain health issues. Combining all of these passions was the catalyst for Brain Health Now, a nonprofit organization focused on ending the stigma of mental illness by changing the words people use. As Debi's work with Brain Health Now has grown, an increased focus has been put on youth through the brain health retreat rooms in the area high schools that have been expanding beyond just Iowa beyond just the Dubuque area and throughout the state of Iowa. A common theme throughout all of Debi's experiences has been the importance of not only ending the stigma, but exploring ways to maintain and enhance brain health. Debi's passion of combining her mission of ending the stigma with the exploration of the outdoors and prioritizing of mindfulness comes from research supporting that when children engage in outdoor play, they become more independent. It reduces childhood obesity and stress. It also boosts their overall mood, develops resiliency, and improves self-esteem. The attributes of practicing mindfulness and being outdoors have been integral for Debi's personal and professional growth. In the spring of 2024, Debi was awarded 2 separate awards, and Debi does not brag about herself, so I'm going to brag about her right now. 2 of these awards, one of them was from the Foundation for Dubuque Public Schools as their Friend of the Year, wow, for the Dubuque Public Schools. And the second was the Impact Award from Dubuque's 365 magazine at their annual awards. Debi, what a resume. And I know a lot of those things about you aren't even on there. So we're going to talk more about all the things Debi Butler, Brain Health Now, and ending the stigma. So welcome to the podcast, Debi.
I'll be the best version of myself, spreading kindness and peace.
Thank you, Molly. It's like, wow, it's really hard to sit here and listen about myself, but wow, okay.
And I know that about you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to probably toot your horn a little bit more than you are. So that's okay.
Okay.
I'm so grateful to have you here to talk about Brain Health Now and the impact that we can have as a community of ending the stigma. So today we're also going to talk about the brain health retreat rooms, but not till later on, because that is a huge integral part of Brain Health Now and our relationship with our nonprofit Mindful Minutes for Schools and the work we do at Challenge to Change. So I'm so excited to talk about the brain health rooms. But I'd like to begin with the mission of Brain Health Now. And so could you tell the listeners a little bit about Brain Health Now and the mission?
Absolutely. This is one of my very, very wonderful, passionate conversations that I have. And I'll just start from the beginning of how we started and why we started it and how it's accomplished to help people with their brain health throughout the past, I'm going to say 9 years now. I can't believe it.
Has it been that long?
Yeah. Claire and I were talking about that the other day, and I think it's going on 10. So, but don't quote me. So
it feels like yesterday that I was starting to hear that, and see the first billboards.
Yes.
Wow.
The billboards. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So it all started in 1985 with my brother, who was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And back then, Molly, as you know, any kind of brain health, mental illness, it was very, very stigmatized to the point where people wouldn't talk about it. My mom and dad wouldn't talk about it. I had an undergrad in psychology at the time, so I was a little more astute to what was going on with him. But it was a very hard conversation to have. And to also to watch Steve deal with society because they didn't understand him.
Right.
So we've been dealing with him for many, many years and trying to help normalize his life. And he's been in and out of 12 institutions for the past, since 1985. He's taken over probably 15, 20 pills a day to stop the hallucinations and the conversation or the voices that he hears in his head. But he is a wonderful human being. He was honorably discharged from the military. And I remember the time when he came home. I was living in Arizona at the time. And he just said, Deb, I'm not feeling right. He was there for 3 years. They kind of just dropped him off at the airport. And he lived with us.
Wow.
And I remember the very distinctive night that we knew there was something going on. He woke up in the middle of the night and he had his bedding in his hands. And he said, this smells like chlorine. He goes, I can't sleep because I feel like I'm smelling chlorine in my bed. So I smelled it and I didn't smell anything. And I looked at him and I said, okay, let's put it in the washer. From that moment on, I knew that something was going on because, the olfactory was taking over and it was just what was happening to his brain. So we really kind of supported him, tried to put him in treatments, psychologists, medications. And it did work for a while, and then it was like up and down for a while. He tried to take his life over 7 times.
Oh, wow.
But we were very lucky that he didn't.
Right.
And he was with us up until 2 years ago. He passed away due to pneumonia, with complications due to pneumonia. So, but I can tell you that we as a family were small but mighty, and we just loved him, and we just did the best we could. And over the years, I saw that the stigma was as detrimental to Steve than the disease. And that's a big statement because the disease itself is very hard to deal with. But when I saw people dealing with him, talking to him, trying to communicate with him, they looked at him, there was a character flaw or that he was doing it on purpose. So I realized that we need to do something now. And literally 9 years ago, I woke up and decided that we need to do a language change. And that's where the billboards came in. So we put the billboards up in Dubuque, Iowa. And to date, we've done wonderful things.
And for the listeners who may be not from the Iowa area, the billboard said it's not in the stigma, it's not mental illness, and it crossed off mental illness with a big red X and wrote below it or above it, brain health.
Yeah, so we had multiple billboards. We had, I think, 3 or 4, and one said it's brain health, not mental illness. And then the one you talked about, psycho, crazy, they would cross it out with an X. So we had a variety of different ways, but it was just outstanding marketing for what our concept was. And the concept was we want to help in stigma through changing language.
And Debbie, I don't think I ever told you this, but the first time I saw the billboard was, I can't remember how many years, it must have been 8 years ago.
I mean, yeah.
But my friend drew it to my attention because she had just lost her son to suicide. And she said, Molly, and I went over to be with her, of course, because that's what friends do for each other. You want to be there in their best and their worst moments. And she said, Molly, have you seen that billboard that's by your house? Because it was really close to my house. And she said, where it crosses off mental illness and it says brain health. And that's when your work really came on my radar. And I'm like, I've got to meet whoever is behind all this. And it turned out Clara, who's your right-hand person, is someone who, I've known since childhood. So it was really, really impactful for me to see that billboard. So thank you for doing that in our community.
Well, that's good. I never knew about that. So
Yeah. Very impactful.
Yes.
So I met the billboard before I met you.
There you go.
So as a fellow founder of a
Yes.
nonprofit, because Brain Health Now is a nonprofit,
Yes.
And your story with your brother Steve brought you to found your nonprofit, Brain Health Now. I know that, we don't do this work just because, or found a nonprofit just because. There's a passion and there's a purpose, which turns into the why, capital WHY, right? I mean,
Exactly.
capital letters. So Brain Health Now is very personal for you because of the story with your brother. And I know that your story has been impactful to me, and it's been impactful to all our listeners now. But would you share how you brought Steve's message forward through Brain Health Now and your why?
Yeah. So I was reading these questions over before we came, and the why is because I don't think any of us should ever feel not a part of society. And I think the why for me is that we all, no matter what we have, we're not perfect. We should be treating each other with dignity, respect, and just love. And I think that until we can all do that, there's going to be problems, And so I really feel that there's all kinds of statistics we'll talk about in a minute about what children are going through right now. But we all deserve to be treated with respect. My brother was not. And so the why was, let's just figure this out. Let's do this. Let's make other families and people, society, organizations understand that it's not a character flaw and it's not a choice. And so I think we've accomplished that. We've done a lot.
I'd say so.
We've done a lot. And I don't know if you want to talk about that now or later.
I'd love for you to talk about it right now,
Okay.
like what you've done at the state level too.
Yeah. And
Yes.
so, I think a lot of people would ask, why are we changing the language? And then once we say the brain is an organ, it can get sick too, just like any other organ in your body. And so it would be like an aha moment. Because when we talk about cancer or kind of any kind of medical issue, the first thing is empathy. Like, I'm so sorry you have cancer. I'm so sorry you have diabetes or something happened. But when you talk about the brain, it's like people step back because I guess in all due respect for people in general, behaviors that come from a person who is suffering from a brain health issue, such as my brother, it's a little intimidating. I mean, because he's hallucinating, he's seeing things that aren't here. And so that's really tough for the average person to understand. But what they have to understand is it is something that's going on in the brain. And so I think we've accomplished that, especially in our little town of Dubuque, Iowa, and hopefully through the state of Iowa.
Can you talk about the city proclamation and the state, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we have had really good response from the governor and the state for the past many years that we've got a proclamation from the state of Iowa, stating that brain health is a word and that it is the month of brain health is October.
Yay.
I know, isn't it fun? And then we also have had a proclamation from the city of Dubuque every single year because they've been so supportive for the same thing. And we just found out, too, that the other places that we have, I will talk about later, the brain health retreat rooms, they're doing the same thing in their prospective towns or cities. So it's really
my
kind of spreading through the state of
Debbie.
Iowa. And I just think I had to laugh because we get the newspaper here every day. I read it. The TH is great. And
is.
there's not one probably month, maybe I'm exaggerating, I don't think so, that there's something about brain health, whether it's, with the police officers, whether it's Mercy One or whatever. And it's a thing now. So people are calling it brain health. And when I'm out in public, people will say, oh, it's mental health. And they look at me, sorry, Deb, I didn't mean to say that.
Okay.
So I really believe we've turned the trajectory for that language to change. And to me, it's enlightening the whole darkness that we have hanging over our heads with brain health / mental health issues. We've gotten schools, we've gotten the hospitals, Mercy One, Unity Point, businesses, all kinds of organizations using the words brain health. And it's really making people look at it as a positive light. So we have to keep on going. We have a lot more to do.
Oh, I love that. And that is a definition of a true change maker and someone who is living out the best version of their life. Through sometimes our painful things comes growth, and not just growth for ourselves personally, but when we give it outward meaning to our community. So thank you for the work that you do in our community. So you talked about statistics.
Yes.
So I think that that's important for us to share the statistics because Brain Health Now does a lot of education as well. So I know that you tirelessly work on educating people in our world on your why and on the statistics. So do you have like your top 2 statistics? Because I know that Brain Health Now in their pitch deck and whatnot has so many amazing pieces, but what are your top 2 statistics you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, so I had to narrow that down too, because you're right. We do have a lot, and it's mind-boggling how much more we're getting since COVID on our children. I'm going to concentrate on the children because that's where the brain health retreat rooms. I think we're segueing into that pretty soon. So one in 6 children, K through 12, have some type of behavioral health issue and or brain health issue. That's 1 out of 6, Molly.
1 out of 6.
And that is not just in our state, that is across the country. So, we really have to really address this brain health issue because it is a thing. It's not going away. And I've been doing this since I was, 19, when I graduated in 1988? No, 1980. When I graduated, 1980, I think it was.
I don't know.
Well, anyway, the first time I had my undergrad.
Yeah.
And so, when I used to study the psychology in the books, they said it was, half a choice and half environment.
That's what it used to say.
Yes. And so I used to sit those books, and now it's completely different. And honestly, it's the same problems that we've had way back when in 1985, 1980s than we have now. So it's getting better. People are starting to be more resilient to the things. But that 1 out of 6 children really got to me. I mean, it really did.
And to say like a lot of more statistics since COVID too.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if that number is even 1.33 or 1.4 now. I mean, because of the experience COVID gave a lot of us.
Yeah. And I think these are post-COVID too.
They're
So
post-COVID.
post-COVID.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and the other thing is that's very mind-boggling to me is that it takes 11 years for a person to get help, to even think about getting help. So that's an adult, and that is a child, and that's a parent. So if you think about it, let's say a child who is 15 years old is showing some symptoms of anxiety, depression, and aren't getting help at that time. It takes 11 years for that child to get help. Wow. And so they're mid-adult, they're in their 20s. And so we're trying to really eradicate the message that there's something wrong with you, but we want you to get help now because it's so important. Because you can solve a lot of these problems by getting early on onset help and then doing the right thing. So whatever that could be. It could be medication. It could be meditation. It could be, anything. So whatever helps that child or adult, they need to get help right away.
That's right.
So we're pushing that.
And I think you've made a huge impact in that, not only with your sharing of the education and the statistics, but through the brain health rooms. And so I'd like to talk about those because that is where our partnership and our friendship began, is working together. Our nonprofit loves to support you and help you in any way that we can with the brain health rooms. And so I know that they're your baby as well. Like they really are very special to you. And it started in Dubuque, Iowa, in the high schools, and it has grown tremendously. So can you share with us a little bit about your brilliant idea of the brain health rooms and having this space for students to practice what we call Challenge to Change, the pause. And we say capital T, capital P, because we want it to be a noun, a proper noun. That's how important it is to practice it, the pause.
Yeah, so I love it.
Can you share that?
Yeah, but first of all, just for everyone, thank you so much for being a part of this. And by the way, it takes a village. It's not my only idea. It's not my idea. It's all of our ideas that we put together. And your involvement with these brain health retreat rooms has made it as successful as it is. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. So this is the fun part. I get giddy when I talk about this.
I love watching you
I know,
get
it's
giddy.
just so much fun. So about 3 years ago, actually, I'm going to go way back. I'm going to go 7 years ago. We started tabling at high schools and junior highs because the schools said, we really love to have you come in, start changing language at this level. These kids will love it. So we did. So we had some really cool swag. We had some T-shirts. We had some socks. We had some bracelets, anything we could think of that the kids would love. And we passed out probably 1,500 items a year. and if not more, 1,500 per school. And so the schools realize that the kids really, really like this messaging. They would come up, the parents would come up during parent-teacher conferences and saying, this is great for us because now we can go home and tell my child that the brain, there's something going on with their dad, and there's something wrong with their dad, and that's why he can't work every day. And so it's just like the brain is an organ, it can get sick too. We kept on pounding that away. So the school said, we want more. And I'm like, okay, let's do more. So we kept on tabling. We grew to, multiple schools throughout the state of Iowa. And I remember Shirley Hortzman and Stan Rennigan. I remember him when he called and they said, Debbie, we want to partner with you somehow. And we're thinking we want a room that could be a potential place for them to go. We have kind of a semi-model that we're studying. Mm-hmm. So what do you think? And so we just got together and we really, really worked on research, worked on everything to get these rooms to where they are. Wow. And we took their model that they had it was a small model, and we just blew it up. It was great. Yeah. So we worked with a marketing firm, and we put together the colors, the furniture, all the little pieces that put these rooms together to make the kids want to come in. These rooms are built for de-escalation and self-regulation. It's 15, 20 minutes. The kids come in during the school day so they can go back and just concentrate in the classes. Right. And the rooms are just fantastic. They look great. They're hip. Right. They're called brain health retreat rooms. So that's what we started.
And Debbie, I don't think I ever shared this with you as well. The greatest thing, that all the sorts of surprises for you in the podcast. But, what I love about the brain health rooms is they keep the kids in school. Because oftentimes they have something traumatic happen to them as they see it in school, or an experience from home that they're bringing to school, and they want to leave because it just gets too hard. And not only is it, helping with de-escalation and self-regulation, it's also helping to build resilience.
Yes.
Because it keeps the kids in school. So the story I never shared with you is last year, one of my twins was a senior in high school. And she called me in tears because she was struggling with friends. And it was right after our yoga gala. And I just said, have you ever been to the brain health room? And she's like, no. And I'm like, I want you to go there. Because she wanted to come home because it was just getting too hard with her trouble with friends, And she went to the brain health room. Oh. And she met with Kristen Nolan, who was
great.
And still is your liaison at senior high school. And she was there for 10 minutes and she listened to a meditation and she was ready to go back to school with a different perspective and ready to learn, because oftentimes when the students learn, when the students leave school, that's where the learning stops.
Yes.
And so they're able to return to learning. And so I love the resilience that it builds. So
and so we are up to 13 schools, and that story, Molly, is beautiful because that's what we're hearing, and we're hearing testimonies from the children, from the school principals, and from our brain health liaisons. I think the key for this room is that we have a full-time licensed counselor in these rooms, which we call a brain health liaison. And so when the kids come in, it's not like going through a counseling session or a therapy session. It's stopping by this cool place. We have snacks, by Whitney Sanger, Whitney.
Yep, Whitney Sanger.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh,
from
Whitney.
Project Rooted.
Project Rooted. Thank you.
Our fellow nonprofit.
Yeah, she's
person
amazing.
In our town of Dubuque.
Yeah, and we have your good work in there, Mindful Minutes, which is just beautiful. So these brain health liaisons will take the time for these kids for 15, 20 minutes, and there may be sometimes 5 kids in a day or at a time in these rooms. When we first opened up, we had 65 children a day going in one of the rooms at Hempstead, which is great. But I just think that it's something, we got some testimonies from a lot of the girls. They would go into the bathrooms and cry because of things you're talking about. Like it could be anything from a friendship situation to a really serious, maybe a suicide ideation.
Yes.
Which we want to cover all angles. And we also encourage the staff and faculty to use it as well. And we get great results from that too. They get in there early before the kids do. And they calm down, they do their meditations, or they just, whatever they do, they're reading, they go back to the classroom. But the rooms are beautiful, and I'm sure you've seen them. They're great.
Yeah. And they are. And some of my favorite things are the chairs where they can do their meditations. I love that. But, Something that you brought up was the suicide ideation that students may have. We never can measure the possible lives that Brain Health Now is saving because of the Brain Health Rooms. I mean, that is very impactful, I'm sure, to a lot of students who are really in need. So kudos.
Yeah, we're catching it early on, too.
Yeah.
So they're coming in because they can. And the schools have been wonderful because they're allowing the children to come down. We've gotten a couple of pushback comments about, it's a place where they just go to hang out or they don't want to do their tests. I'm like, of course, they're teenagers.
Yes, right? Of course, that's okay.
Right. But it's up to the liaison to control that. And we've got over 18, I think there's even 20 now. We have a collaborative Brain Health Liaison Collaborative that we meet once a month to talk about best practices. So as soon as you open a room into your prospective school, then we take the Brain Health Liaison, we embrace him, and we talk to them every month. And so it's been wonderful because we have all the best practices that come out of the conversations. We have 2 in-person sessions now. We're really excited. We're going to try that this year. Yeah, and you're going to be at one of them.
I'm excited
yeah,
to
me
do
too.
that day with them. So
Yeah.
and end it
Yeah.
with an awesome sound healing too.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait.
So I know you have started in Dubuque and it's expanded, and now it's not just in the high schools. You also have them in middle schools and in the Boys and Girls Club in Dubuque as well. But if there is someone who wants to learn more about the Brain Health Retreat Rooms, or possibly a school district who's listening to this and would like to have one in their community, how can they learn more or have communication about how to do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So just to clarify, we do have, our target is high schools, and that's what we want to do because there's over 360 high schools in the state of Iowa. So we really want to try to really expand throughout there. We're in Ottumwa now. I think our farthest one is Ottumwa, Ames, Iowa. And so we're getting calls all the time for these Brain Health Retreat Rooms. We opened one in Bettendorf just recently, and they're really excited. So I'm excited about that too. So my husband and I have a foundation, and we want to support 6 rooms a year.
Wow.
And that's our commitment for eternity for right now.
Oh, wow.
So we're just really, that's my passion. That's what we love to do. So we're doing that. And then you can go to the website because it has a great part just for Brain Health Retreat Rooms. You just click on the button and it'll show you the pictures and it tells you where to go, how to get there. And then that is brainhealth-now.org. And so that's one of the ways you can do it. You can get a hold of me anytime or you.
Yeah, definitely. They can come to our website and ask a question and we'll direct them right to you.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah, so we're but the middle school, so we do have 2 middle schools that are being utilized, but they're also attached to a high school.
Okay.
And so that's where you got the middle school. You're correct, because it's in a smaller community. And so that's working out well because they have 6th through 12th grade, and they're just like right there. So they just walk right in. Our goal is to do middle school, but we've got so much to do with the high schools right now.
Yeah.
I know.
And I feel like a lot of times our high schoolers are forgotten, you know? And so thank you for doing that.
Well, I think that was we did research on that because I think the elementary schools, especially in Dubuque, do have calming rooms. And so we kind of knew that, and the other areas that we looked at too. So we thought the high schoolers, like you said, they're the ones that are kind of forgotten. Right. And they're the ones that are going to be out in the world pretty soon. So we've got to help them.
They're going to be our next community members leaders.
They
right?
are, yes.
So this leads to the part of the podcast where I ask 4 questions called the Core 4. And I ask them to everyone who comes onto the podcast. And a lot of these questions are founded from our dear friend Liza Johnson, who introduced us to each other. I mean, I met you through the billboard first, but got to really meet you through the introduction of Liza, who's been previously on this podcast. Because we, through a group of women during COVID, we call ourselves Power Minds. And because we believe that we are working towards ending the stigma and spreading brain health and working on personal empowerment and social emotional learning altogether. And we learned from Liza about core values and noble goals in life and how to continue to work better towards becoming the best version of ourselves through knowing ourselves, through making healthy choices, and then giving of ourselves in healthy ways. And so we did a course with Liza, and that's how we first met, over Zoom. because it was during COVID, but we learned about core values and how core values really form us. So Debbie, for our listeners, could you say what your top 3 core values are?
Top 3.
I know it's hard.
I had 4.
Okay, well, you can do
So,
4.
okay.
You can do 4.
So my top 4 core values would be integrity.
Yes.
And I have passion and honesty and empathy. And I know that passion and empathy, some people think that's the same, but it's not. I think with empathy, you can empathize and really put yourself in that situation of that person, whether you understand or not. I think that's so important. And the compassion is just being able to be compassionate for whatever they're feeling. It's so important. It's so important to be
Yes.
heard. And the honesty, I think if you're honest with others and yourself, you're going to be a good person. You're going to be okay.
Yes.
You're going to get through a lot. And I think once that value is lost, you get a little lost. So,
Yes.
and then the integrity, you just got to be strong, and you got to be convicted that you're going to keep on going and doing this. And what you do believe in is real for you. And I think once you believe in yourself, the sky's the limit.
I love that.
And some of us I think I matured into these things older in life. I was in the great teenager. I was a great young adult, but I really do believe in my age now that I can feel it. I feel it and I can believe it, and I don't turn back. I always go forward. So, yeah.
And I do feel like since 2020, since when I first met you, which
wild.
is, 4 years ago this December, my core values, not that they've changed a little bit, but
Yeah.
they've honed. And as I become more empowered and aware of my own well-being. And so, but honesty is one that has always stuck with me as the others have changed, because I do believe, and that really resonated with me when you said honesty, because I believe you are the best version of yourself when you are honest with yourself and others. So you were going to say something and add in.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right. But yeah, so thank you for sharing that. And that leads into my second question, which is the noble goal, because we know that our core values feed into our noble goal. And our noble goal is a guiding statement for our life. And our guiding statement always points outward. It helps get us out of bed in the morning. It helps us to keep aligned to every decision we make, because we want it to align with our noble goal. Because our noble goal is what leads us through this life personally and professionally, and will never be accomplished till the day that we die, right? And we'll hear from the angels, job well done, Debbie. You did it. You accomplished your noble goal. But it's something to keep us moving forward and being the best version of ourselves day after day after day. So Debbie, what is your noble goal?
So I would say my noble goal is, when I get out of bed in the morning, is that I want others to feel like I do. We went through a lot, with my brother. There's other things in my life that, we didn't get into. And somehow, some way, I've always had a positive attitude. It's not easy. It wasn't easy to see my brother institutionalized or, schizophrenic or whatever, or psychotic. And I do believe that once we're all going to have ups and downs.
Right.
That is, I don't care what level you're at. I don't care who you are, economic status, doesn't matter anything, how we look, whatever. But I think once we keep that positive attitude and then go forward and help others see that's my noble goal. I just feel like it's only fair that others can have a positive way of seeing what life can be like. And I do believe that every day I get out of bed, because I don't want to be in a bad mood. I don't want to think negative.
Right.
But I do think that when I see someone who is down or out or upset or can't figure something else, I want them to see a different light too. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Our old tagline of Challenge to Change before we rebranded was think positive and positive things will happen. So
Yeah.
it's like what you reflect into the world reflects back to you.
Yeah.
So I love that you said that your wish for everybody is to be like that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, I love that. So I know that the Debi Butler that you are today is because of many inspirational people who have been in your life. I'm sure your brother was one of them, and family members. But who would you say is one of the most inspirational people in your life that you have met to help you become the best version of yourself today, the Debi Butler of today?
So that's another question that I looked at and I thought about. And honestly, Molly, I don't have just one person.
Oh, I love that. So share, a couple other people said the same thing.
Did they?
And so go ahead and share a few if you would like
Yeah.
to.
So I just, first of all, family. I mean, my mom and dad have been such an inspiration to me. My grandmother was an inspiration to me. My son is an inspiration to me. My husband, my in-laws, my grandchildren, but those are I think that would be the family, right? And I can't really pick one person out because everybody offers something to give me to fill me up, to who I am today. And I think I can honestly tell you that people are inspiration to me. You're an inspiration to me for doing what you do. And everybody it touches my life. I look at what I can learn from. I always say, go to the people that are smartest people in the room or go to the people that are most passionate and learn from them. And honestly, that's what I do. And I don't think about, a person because I think we all can learn from each other. And I think that's the lesson that it's really hard to find and understand because I don't think a lot of people think like that. So my whole, I guess my suggestion or what I'm trying to say is learn from everybody because we all have something beautiful to offer. We really do. So.
Wow, Debbie, that just knowing you, of course, that's your answer because that is you. That's beautiful. And thank you for giving me that outside the box answer because that is you. That's you completely. So thank you. My last question of the core four. Are you ready?
No.
Okay. Well, this one is, it can be even what you're going to do next today. But at Challenge to Change, we always say to the kids and we teach them, one of our core mission statements is, how are you going to make the world around you better than you found it? Like you are children now, but eventually you're going to be that next generation. You're going to be our leaders. You're going to be our community members. You're going to be the neighbors of the future. And there are going to be the next group of children to come. So how are you going to make the world around you better than you found it? Are you going to make sure that you clean up your desk? Are you going to make sure that you don't litter? Are you going to make sure that you take care of your body on the insides and the outsides and make healthy choices? But it also can be mission statements and why, like Brain Health Now. But when you leave today, and it doesn't have to be what you do tonight, but in the future, short future for you, how is Debi Butler going to continue to make the world around her better than she found it?
So I think it's just more of what I've been saying. I just think our goal is to put more brain health retreat rooms into the high schools, and we're working with the federal level now.
I was hoping you'd share that.
I'm so excited. And so we have a potential possibility.
Yes.
And that we could get some federal money that we can open hundreds of brain health retreat rooms.
Which would be amazing.
Work with the state too. We're working with legislation right now to talk about more funding. Andy and I can fund our 6 rooms, but I don't think we're going to fund the whole entire country.
To fund 6 rooms.
Yeah,
That's
no,
amazing.
it is. I'm really proud. And the other, so I just think, honestly, that's what I wrap my head around, is to keep the kids safe, keep the kids learning, keep the kids positive, and learn how to de-escalate and self-regulate because we all need that. We all get to the point where it becomes difficult. But if we learn how those skills, as with your mindful minutes and with things that you do, if they can learn how to de-escalate early on, then as adults, they can become the best person they are too. So,
wow. I mean, I'm kind of speechless right now, but I really want to share this with you, Debbie. Out of all the podcasts that I've done, I feel like this is the one that really has encompassed my noble goal. So I feel like you are just reflecting to me because my noble goal is making the world around you, creating happy and healthy and safe kids who make the world around them better than they found it. And you just every answer you've had has really encased that noble goal. So I am excited for the work that we can do together to continue to do that. Yeah,
together.
Yes.
That's why we love each other.
I know. I just think you're one of the greatest humans. And I'm so grateful you said yes to coming on this podcast because I know our listeners will learn so much more about ending the stigma and about brain health and changing the narrative and the language. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking.
I'll be the best version of myself, spreading kindness and peace. I'll be the best version of myself.